Hi, what's up you guys? So today I want to talk to you about factoring companies as used in the transportation industry, how we use them in tracking, how we use them in, everyday duties of, managing your business as a truck driver, owner, operator, fleet owner, what it is, why do you need a factoring company, what it means to work with a factoring company. First of all, we need to go back and understand how the entire process works, how the cash gets to exchange hands in the trucking business. How do we, make transactions happen? So ideally, when there is a load, a specific load, it comes from a shipper. The shipper uses a broker to find carriers. If they can't go directly to the carriers, they will use a broker. And the brokers will most of the time hire the driver to go and pick up the load from the shipper's address to wherever they want it delivered. And that carrier is supposed to get paid. He's the last person on the chain of any load. So we want to see that, how does this person get paid? Ideally, when I deliver a load, I would expect somebody to pay me. That would be the ideal situation. If the world was perfect, that is what we would expect to be happening. But it doesn't happen really. What happens most of the time is that you deliver a load and brokers have things to do with net 60, net 90, net 15. Sometimes I see 15 days. I see 20 days, 22 days. Usually these are things you see, especially if you go on the load board to book the loads yourself, you see that. Or they will tell you that, oh, do you know that we pay in 60 days? Do you know that we pay in 90 days? And then you agree or not. But ideally, you can't say no because that's the industry standard. That's how everybody is doing it. And this also goes back to how the shippers pay them too. The shippers also don't pay cash down, immediately you do the job, they wire you the money. No, they will also take like 60 days, 30 days, depending on the company policy and how much capital they have to play around with. So what we do here is usually to, you might find yourself stuck because the trucking industry, as you have already realized, if you're in the business, is very cash intensive. You need cash flow all the time. You need cash to buy, diesel. You need to maintain and pay drivers all the time. The trucks break down. You have to be able to fork out like $1,000 to, clear whatever it is that is holding you down. You need to be able to pay your accountants, your dispatchers. So you have to have constant flow of cash. So things of waiting for 90 days, 60 days are things that can never, work out for us. We can't stand it, we can't take it. And that is when the guys who thought about factoring decided to come in place. They come in and help buy the invoices of the jobs the truckers, did. So ideally, if, Pathfinder Freight delivered a load, ABC, or in this case, let's use OTR Capital, will come and buy the invoice for that job at a percentage. So the idea behind this is that you are able to receive money in like the shortest period, which is like 24 hours, 48 hours, or even a week, depending on how you can, schedule it out such that you don't have little payments coming in day and night. But you can schedule it to be like on a weekly basis. You submit everything and then they cash you out. But the thing is, you are able to get your money out quicker, and then the factoring companies will wait for the 30 days that the brokers want to get to pay out those invoices. And that is done on the side of the carrier who has their factoring companies. But also when we look on the other side, brokers too have factoring companies because they equally have a lot of systems and people to pay, and they don't have the cash flow most of the time because this is a big industry. We are dealing with big monies. The jobs are, for a substantial amount of money. So having to be able to pay people every day in and out requires a lot of capital. And if you don't have it, you have to turn to the factoring companies who also help the brokers. They will be able to service all the invoices for the brokers. These invoices coming from the brokers are usually sent out to their shippers where they got the original job. So the idea here is that shippers who pay out in like 30 days, who pay their brokers in 60 days, in 90 days, will get a bill at the end of that time frame from a factoring company that will either come in from the broker or the carrier. That is if they work directly. So if you're a carrier working directly with a shipper, you will be using the factoring company to bill that shipper. If you're working directly with brokers, then your factoring company will bill the broker at the end of that time period which they gave you while you were booking the load. So that is basically how it works. Ideally, these factoring companies charge between $2, I've only had a few. That was when I just opened the company. A lot of calls will be coming in saying, oh, we will factor your load for 2%, we'll factor your load for 2.5%, we'll factor your load for 2.75, 3%. They will have all sorts of pricing points, but you have to be careful who you're choosing. Some factoring companies are babies, just like other tracking companies or brokering companies or any other company. Basically, they will be babies and they don't have money or big cash flows, especially the small ones. So you want to pay attention on who is calling you, how long they've been in business, how big are they. Do some research before you say yes to any person trying to call you, asking you to take on their company as the ones to factor your loads or factor your invoices. And also, on the cautionary side, let's talk about things you should be paying attention when you are choosing which factoring company to go for. You have to be, looking at the fine print. Ask them questions like things to do with contracts. How long must I sign a contract to work with you? How long must I be in that contract? What happens if I break the contract? Most of the time, they'll make you pay a penalty of the term that, from the time when you break the contract. They'll ask you to pay like $5,000 for, breaking the contract. Ask all of those things and, negotiate for what you're comfortable with or not. And ask them if you must just be factored by just one company. If you have like a big operation, do you have to work with just them, or can you have another company that you factor your invoices with? Most of the time they might say, oh, we don't want you to work with anybody else, and it is usually in the fine print and you wouldn't know until you are working with another person, and then something happens and then they find out and you're in trouble. These guys can go legal on you in any minute, so you have to be paying attention to all of that. I like typically to go for big companies because they have systems, they have extra support they are going to give you as a newbie or somebody who is already in the tracking business. They have their website are better developed. They have systems on how to upload easily your invoices and bill of lading and rate confirmations. These are things that you will be submitting for every particular load you've done, because they will need to file all of that when they are trying to bill either your broker or your shipper. All right, so a quick example here: if the load was paying $1,000 as a carrier, as a driver, an owner operator, if I booked that load, I will go deliver it and I would expect to get $1,000, but that's not what's going to happen. If I take it through a factoring company that has to, wait for 30 days or 40 days to get this money back, it will pay me less by 3%. The factoring company will buy that invoice for 3%. 3% of $1,000 equals to $30. So for $30, they will be able to forward me they would be able to give me that money in like 24 hours, and then I will receive in my bank account $970 less by $30, which is the cost of doing business with the factoring company. If that happens, I am happy. I'm able to continue with my business. I'm able to pay my driver. I'm able to pay for gas for the next load that I have to do, and then the factoring company can wait for 30 days after that they will also receive their cut, which is $30. But to do this, you have to be able to upload certain paperwork that is related to that load that you did. Things to do with rate confirmations, things to do with bill of lading, any detention or tunnel receipts, or anything to do with lumper fees that you incurred on that time. All of those receipts, you have to upload them to your factoring company as well as to the broker, such that when they come to bill them, they can match it and be able to say, oh yes, Pauline did this job, yes, we agree to pay you, and we're going to pay you in 90 days or whichever time frame that they work with. So that's how that works. So these are things that I wanted to share with you today. If you find this information helpful, in the comments below, tell me which factoring company you're using, and if you're comfortable telling me how much they're charging you, I'd like to do some comparisons here. In our dispatching services, we do use OTR Capital. There's also a link in the description below. If you find that OTR is something that will work for you, you can use the link. It helps out the channel a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.